Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating piece of research that looks at reward systems in the workplace. We're going to break it all down, so let's get right into it.
So, the paper really gets at a question that I think is on a lot of our minds, especially now. What actually motivates us at work? It's become so clear that it's not just about the paycheck anymore. This research really digs into what truly drives our performance and our satisfaction in this new era of work.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the new challenges companies are facing. Then we'll look at how this research was actually done. After that, we'll map out the key findings, explore the real power of rewards, see what it takes to design a better system, and finally, we'll look at what's next for employee recognition.
Okay, first up, a new workplace challenge. Let's talk about why reward systems have become so incredibly important right now.
The whole work landscape has been turned on its head, hasn't it? The paper highlights that between the pandemic and the pressures of globalization, companies are just constantly trying to adapt. They're feeling this immense pressure to keep their best people, push for high performance, and just, survive long term. This really puts human resources right at the center of the action.
So, how exactly did the researchers figure all this out? In this next section, we're investigating the research. And this is super important because it shows you just how rigorous the process was to get to the insights we're about to cover.
This work was done by a team of 4 researchers: Elizabeth Figueiredo, Clara Margasa, Jose Carlos Sanchez Garcia, and Celia Ribeiro. They conducted what's known as a systematic review, which is a really structured and methodical way to pull together all the existing research on a topic and see what it all says. And they cast a wide net, to say the least. Their first search across big academic databases like Scopus and Web of Science pulled up, get this, over 1,900 articles. So the big question is, how did they whittle that huge number down to find the most relevant stuff?
Well, they used a super rigorous method called the PRISMA protocol to filter everything. It's basically a 3-step process. First, there's identification, which was finding all those initial articles. Step 2 is screening. That's where they got rid of duplicates and articles that were off topic. And the third step, inclusion, is where they applied some really strict criteria to pick out only the absolute best and most relevant studies.
After all of that careful filtering, they landed on a final set of 61 peer-reviewed articles, all published between 2015 and 2022. And that time frame is key because it covers the years right before, during, and after the pandemic, which makes these findings incredibly relevant for us today.
All right, on to Section 3, mapping the key findings. This is where we get that high-level, bird's-eye view of who's doing this research and where in the world it's happening.
Now, this is really interesting. If you look at this chart, you can see a major spike in publications happening in 2021 and 2022. What does that tell us? It suggests that the huge disruptions to work from the pandemic really kicked off a brand new wave of interest from researchers trying to figure out how we motivate and reward people now.
And this isn't just a topic for Western countries. Not at all. The research is truly global. This chart shows us where the studies were actually conducted. And what's fascinating is that countries like Nigeria and Brazil are leading the charge in this particular review. It just goes to show you that figuring out how to reward people is a puzzle organizations are trying to solve all over the world. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. Section 4, the power of rewards. Here's where we unpack what the research says about how different kinds of rewards actually affect us as employees.
First, we've got extrinsic rewards. These are the things you can, touch and feel. They're the tangible, external motivators that a company gives you. We're talking about the classics: your salary, that end-of-year bonus, your health benefits, and of course, getting a promotion. They're concrete and usually have a dollar sign attached.
But then, on the other side of the coin, you have intrinsic rewards. These are the psychological goodies you get just from doing the work. This is all about feeling like you have control over your work, autonomy, or getting recognized for doing a great job, that amazing feeling of accomplishment, and getting feedback that actually helps you grow.
And this comparison really lays it all out perfectly. Extrinsic rewards are about getting that validation from the outside, and their effect can be pretty short-term. They're fantastic for hitting a specific performance target. Intrinsic rewards, though, that's about internal fulfillment. Their impact sticks around for a lot longer, and they're the secret sauce for building deep job satisfaction and real commitment.
So here's the bottom line. When companies get this balance right, the payoff is massive. We're talking about more motivation, more satisfaction, higher engagement, better performance. But it doesn't stop there. It also sparks more creativity and knowledge sharing. And this is the big one, it makes people want to stick around.
But, and this is a big but, the flip side is just as powerful. When reward systems are managed badly, if people feel they're unfair or the rules are murky, the damage can be huge. The research shows it leads to frustration, disinterest, a total breakdown of trust and loyalty, and it can even kill collaboration. And in the end, your best people just walk out the door.
This brings us to a super practical part of all this, designing a better system. So, knowing what's at stake, how can a company actually build a reward system that, works?
And the authors of the paper don't mince words. They say that poor management doesn't just fail to motivate people, it can actually create the opposite effect, leading to things like frustration, withdrawal, disinterest, and discomfort. The risk of getting it wrong is every bit as real as the reward for getting it right.
So how do you get it right? Well, the research points to 3 non-negotiables, 3 pillars. First, justice. The rewards have to be handed out fairly. Second, transparency. You can't have a black box. Everyone needs to understand the rules of the game. And third, equity. People need to feel that what they get is fair for the effort they put in, especially when they look at their peers. Get those 3 things right, and you build trust, and trust is the foundation for everything.
And finally, let's look to the horizon in our last section, the future of recognition. Where is all of this headed, for both researchers and for businesses? This image here kind of gives us a roadmap for what future research could look like. The authors suggest that to really get a deeper understanding, we need to explore new theories, look at a wider range of workplaces, like family businesses or even government jobs, and use different methods, like studies that track people over time. We also need to measure different kinds of impact, like how rewards affect our work-life balance.
Which leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. The world of work is not standing still, not by a long shot. So how will your organization, or the one you want to work for, adapt? How will it move beyond just paying people to creating a system that truly recognizes, fulfills, and motivates its people? That's the real challenge, isn't it?